Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. In the first story, the pizzeria screwed our OP, and he literally destroyed them. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Accidentally put my phone number in a newspaper ad and refused to fix it? I'll drive you out of business. Used to, we had a phone number that was very similar to a Pizza Hut. Their number was 555-455-5575, and ours was 555-455-5515. Now, these two numbers are commonly mixed up for obvious reasons. This was back before the days of cell phones and everyone having their own personal number, and we actually had to get a caller ID because of this. For years, we had this Pizza Hut's client base calling our house about 50-50 split, sober or drunk, and order pizzas. The thing is, people will not listen when you tell them, sorry, wrong number. We'd have drunk people call back 4 or 5 times, then begin screaming into the phone, I know this is a effing Pizza Hut, you a-hole, or give me the number or I'll kick your butt. This was pretty normal, and the Pizza Hut was even aware of this and profusely apologized when we would call them. Never giving us anything for free, though, despite the massive inconvenience of the phone ringing off the hook. Well, Pizza Hut corporate then pays for an advertisement on paper, billboard, and phone book, and guess what? They botched the number and put our number on the thing for the phone number as one of the locations in our town for Pizza Huts. Why? Because 1s and 7s are the same number, apparently. The phone calls we get effing explode. It goes from like 3 to 5 phone calls a day to like 100 or 200. Initially, we were directing people with a message that simply said, this is not Pizza Hut. Their number is XXXXXXX. It didn't end. We'd get calls with people screaming into the voice recording, I want a effing pizza. This is bull bleep. I'm gonna kill whoever doesn't answer this effing phone. Aren't boomers great? We got that crap all the time from older people. I cannot tell you how many times I've been told to kill myself for trying to direct someone to the correct place, and for some effing reason, no one ever listens. Well, upon this happening, my dad calls into the Pizza Hut and says, look, all we want is to not have to change our number. If you guys will please change yours or pay for ours to be changed, it was like a $10 convenience fee or something, we'll stop getting your damn phone calls. The manager cussed my dad, who had him on speakerphone, calling him a crapload of names and for getting him bad reviews, as well as losing customers to his branch, which is locally owned. What a effing joke. It's costing their business a solid 10 grand easy over a phone number. Why not just change it? I don't know. My dad looks at the phone, hangs up and says, okay, a-hole, you want to be like that about it? My dad then instructs my 17-year-old self and my sister to take all calls from now on. If it rings, pick it up, take the order and say, okay, your pizza should be there in about an hour and a half. Then when they call back to tell them, sorry, the driver just left, and if they call back a third time, say, well, I can get you on the phone with my manager, but he's probably going to kick your butt if you keep complaining. And then switch the phone with someone else and have them say, listen here, B, you're not getting your pizza, and we're keeping your money. Effing get over it. Or something along those lines. 2 weeks pass and my dad tries to get said Pizza Hut to change our number for free, never pointing out that they effed up their ad, as apparently they were completely oblivious to this fact. Again, the manager screams at my dad saying, I don't have the money to change your effing number. We even tried calling other Pizza Huts to get the issue resolved, and they're corporate, with no real luck. Fair enough, it's game time now, B. Why? For 2 reasons. 1, my dad got a phone with a transfer button, and 2, because summer was rolling around and me and my sister loved effing with people over this. It was a really bad influence on us, to be honest. We fielded phone calls every day, all day long. We had friends come over and they loved partaking in the same thing. We had a general plan. Every other call would get a pizza delivery. On the other calls, we would get them really PO'd, talking crap to them and saying, okay, do you want to speak with my manager? And just cold transfer them to the Pizza Hut. It took 6 more weeks of us doing this, and the Pizza Hut closed. A few weeks before they closed, we got a phone call from Pizza Hut corporate, who more or less threatened us with a cease and desist. Sounded like they didn't really understand what was actually happening, as it accused us of stealing their phone calls. LMFAO. We called their corporate and explained what was going on, and even played our recordings of talking with them before about the issue and ignoring us. All they said is, "You'd better stop, this is illegal," over and over. We didn't stop. They were aware of what was going on and didn't want to do anything about it to fix their FUBAR. A few weeks after the owner lost his job, he called our house and was trying to argue with my dad about how bad of a person he was because I lost money and got my butt beat several times. Apparently, we pissed off a few people bad enough, they actually went in and attacked him and their staff. To this day, it cracks me up that a company can be so oblivious, and is the single reason why I don't believe we live in anything close to a meritocracy. Anyone in this position who has any merit would instantly change the number, but not a corporation who has money to sue, and not a middle manager who has an ego problem. And our next story. Take my crew's pay? Let me introduce you to the Wage Theft Prevention Act. I work in the television industry as a freelancer. It essentially means I get hired by various production companies to work 1 or 2 shows, and then I leave to find another job somewhere else. This works out great most of the time and allows me to take quite a bit of time off in between shows if I need it. But every now and then, I just need a quick gig while I wait for the better gig to start pre-production. I ended up taking a gig with a crappy little company in New York that had 1 show on a small network. Needless to say, they were terrible, disrespectful people and had no idea what they were doing. Me and my team ended up quitting the show after getting fed up with the disrespect and shadiness of the production company. We happily started our next gig at a much better production company in LA. Then I started getting phone calls from production assistants, the lowest paid people on the crew, that they'd not gotten paid. We immediately emailed the production company in New York and were lied to, given fake tracking numbers for checks that were sent out, etc. After 30 days, I instructed each and every PA to file a claim with the labor board. Thanks to the Wage Theft Prevention Act, the employers are liable for the daily rate owed for every day they do not pay, up to 30 days. At the end of the day, we had 7 PAs with a claim of $21,500 each. They all won their cases, and I haven't seen that production company pop up in years. The very worst thing you can do to a human is hold pay you said they were going to earn. And our last story, beating a multi-billion company. This happened 8 years ago, but I remember it as clear as water. All was going well for my dad at the time. F was manager and 1 tanking station for BP. Yes, the multi-billion-dollar company BP. After a while, F noticed cigarettes were missing every week, so F investigated and found the thief. Even got it on tape. F got him fired and BP promoted him. F now manages and runs 3 tanking stations in Limburg. All went well for a while until F out of nowhere was asked to come to BP's HQ all the way up the country. It was a 3-hour drive. After he arrived, he was asked to be followed into a room with 2 people, the leader of BP Netherlands and his lawyer. After a long talk about the performances and all other nonsense, my father knew he was getting fired and just asked, "Am I getting fired?" "Yes, you are." "What reasoning?" "Theft and using the company credit card to buy stuff, so you're fired obstande voet," which means without compensation and a bad record, so they wanted to ruin my dad's future too. "All right," he says, "I'll see you in court then." My father heads out and goes home to tell the news to us. We were all in disbelief, but he said not to worry because he saved all bills of expenses made at the company for 15 years. BP didn't know. He then called a lawyer to meet up and discuss the case. My father's lawyer laughed as he saw all the tickets and bills of all expenses made for 15 years. We will win with ease. After preparing and filing the case, we got to court. Boss and boss's lawyer had a smug look on their face when they entered the courtroom. Father's lawyer stated the case that he was fired for no reason whatsoever and that boss tried to ruin his career by this. Boss's lawyer says, "To my understanding, you bought food for your employees without permission." My father says, "I was the manager and don't need permission to obey the law since it's required for the company to arrange dinner for people who stayed over 8 hours in one shift." Shows the receipt and time span of the coworker shift. Boss's lawyer, "All right, that doesn't explain why you bought clothing with the company's money." As required by law, I need to provide my employees with clothing of the company. Shows the receipt. This went on a couple of times until boss's lawyer had nothing to show anymore and was panicky scrolling through the papers. They lost their smug faces here, and then the judge had seen enough. Judge, "Okay, enough. Boss, there's nothing father did wrong. He obeyed the law and cared a lot for his employees. I hereby order BP to pay for legal costs, court fees, emotional damage to the family, all utility bills for the past 6 months, lawyer costs for both parties. If father wants to work with BP again, you are required to hire him, and a fine which has to be paid in full to father, $225,000. After this happened, father had no interest in working with them ever again. Not 1 year later, he bought up a building and started his own shop. 7 years later, the shop's still standing. So remember, if you keep by the law, companies can't do anything no matter how expensive the lawyers are. That's fantastic. A clear example of the government and the law keeping good control on business. Good show, old chap. Gezellig, as they would say. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.